John Carter's disappointing commercial and critical reception is more famous than the movie itself. Director Andrew Stanton had so much promise that the mere idea of underperforming seemed out of the question. John Carter was initially supposed to be a movie trilogy, but the sequels never happened. Wondering why? Pace up with us. Here is everything we know about John Carter 2's unrealized story plans. With Toy Story's Andrew Stanton at its helm, Disney's John Carter movie adapts Edgar Rice Burroughs' pulpy sci-fi novel, A Princess on Mars. The movie does an incredible job at building a rich, mythology-fueled interstellar world, where a brooding cosmic conflict becomes the backdrop of romantic developments and promising CGI-fueled action scenes. Considering that it has all the markings of a potential franchise, it is not surprising that director Andrew Stanton wanted to move it forward as a full-fledged fantasy movie series. But on March 9th, 2012, the movie that Stanton had awaited decades to make opened to lackluster numbers and negative critical reviews. The film pulled in $284 million globally, which would have made it a success had the studio not weighed it against a rumored $300 million production budget. The dream died, as did any chance of kickstarting a bold new franchise. For years, those who saw the film and loved it wondered why it flopped so spectacularly. Those who didn't care simply dismissed it as another failed Hollywood cash grab. John Carter centers on a titular Civil War veteran who mysteriously finds himself on Mars. As he explores the planet's desolate surface, he soon comes across strange, fantastical creatures, and also learns that he possesses the ability to defy Mars's gravity and make giant leaps in the air. This newfound ability comes in handy when Carter, played by Taylor Kitsch of the Friday Night Lights fame, gets embroiled in a brewing war on the planet and fights evil to become a hero. For those who need a refreshing gist of the first movie, the plot takes place between 1868 and 1881, when Confederate Army Captain John Carter, portrayed by Taylor Kitsch, accidentally transports himself to Mars with an alien medallion he finds while fleeing Union soldiers. Upon arriving on Mars, referred to as Barsoom by its inhabitants, Carter discovers that his bone density, coupled with the planet's low gravity, grants him enhanced physical abilities. The profoundly lost human soldier soon finds himself face to face with the Green Martians, called Tharks, led by Tars Tarkas, Willem Dafoe. Unbeknownst to Carter, civil unrest between the various Martian races is escalating, with Red Martian Princess Deja Thoris, Lynn Collins, caught in the middle with him. The shape-shifting Thurans, led by Matai Shang, Mark Strong, complicated things further, leading to a deadly conflict on many fronts. The first film ends with Carter returning to Mars after faking his death, tricking Shang, and winning an old challenge that kept him trapped on Earth. The original Edgar Rice novels offer an abundance of source material content for at least 2 more sequels, and the movie also ends with an intriguing Avatar-esque cliffhanger that sets up the stage for another Mars adventure. Unfortunately, although Andrew Stanton did have a trilogy in mind when he first directed John Carter, the follow-ups never saw the light of day because of a series of marketing decisions and unfortunate affairs that followed the film's release. Owing to its underwhelming box office performance, despite its potential scalability, it is hard to wonder what went wrong with Disney's John Carter. As Andrew Stanton revealed, John Carter 2 would have been titled Gods of Mars, just like Willem Dafoe's Tars in the first film. Lynn Collins' Deja would have narrated the prologue of the second one. The movie's story begins with her reciting the events of the first film to her child, Carthoris, who she believes will never know his father, John Carter. Soon after, Kieran Hines, Tardos Moores, takes the child from her while assuring her that he will put him to bed. However, he turns out to be Matai Shang, played by Kingsman's Mark Strong, in one of his shape-shifting forms, who kidnaps the child and disappears. With this, the movie's opening credits start rolling, and it begins where the first film ended, John Carter's return to the planet of Barsoom. Arriving a decade after his departure, Carter learns that Deja has gone down the river, hoping that it will lead her to her abducted child. After joining forces with Taras Tarkas, Carter follows his wife's lead and soon discovers a modern underground city that is ruled by the Firstborn race. It turns out that the Firstborns are devotees of goddess Isis and have been managing everything on the planet from water to air, food to plants, since its inception. Realizing that goddess Isis is another one of the shape-shifting Matai's fake identities, Carter sets out to expose him to the Firstborns and rescue his son. John Carter II's story reaches its crescendo when Carter almost kills his own son, who has been genetically advanced by Matai into an adult superhuman warrior. In the end, Deja, Carter, and their son finally reunite, and the three races, the Red, the Green, and the Firstborn, come together to overpower the Therns. John Carter III, titled Warlord of Mars, follows Carter's race against time to find the Therns, who want to demolish the entire planet. To buy time, the Therns use their shape-shifting abilities to pose as leaders of Martian races and manipulate them into fighting one another. Meanwhile, Deja invents a device to detect the Therns in their shape-shifting disguises, but the Therns stay one step ahead and destroy her device. Soon after, they also kill Taylor Kitsch's John Carter, but little do they realize he is only a copy of the original John Carter, who wakes up on Earth. Back on Earth, Edgar uses his shotgun to save Carter from the Thern Pinkertons and help him return to Mars. As the threat of a world war looms in the shadows, Carter and his family carry their last remaining Thern detector to the top of the world by following the Thern Trial. That's when John runs into Matai and defeats him to ultimately save the planet and rightfully become the titular warlord of Mars. The sequels never happened because John Carter flopped at the box office. Later, Walt Disney Co. even announced that it expected a loss of $200 million on the film, making John Carter a quintessential big-budget box office failure, like Waterworld. After Disney lost the rights to the property in 2014, all hopes for the sequels were lost, and Stanton's promising ideas for the sequels remained dormant. John Carter II and III's fate is unfortunate in every sense, but also serves as a lesson on how seemingly trivial changes in a film's marketing and brand can incur substantial losses. In hugely surprising news, John Carter, Warlord of Mars, is on its way to a PC or console near you. Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated is collaborating with FNCPR and lead developer Tanglewood Games to release a first-person adventure game based on the literary hero. The principal voice cast in place, with David Elliott voicing John Carter, Brian Bovell on board as Taras Tarkas, and Kezia Burrows set as Princess of Mars, Dejah Thoris. Development is already well underway, with the story set in 1945 as soldier John Carter works on a mission to find Hitler's secret project general, Hans Kammler. Stumbling upon experimental technology, Carter finds himself transported to the far-flung land of Barsoom. Edgar Rice Burroughs' creation is the star of some of the most important and influential sci-fi stories in history, with John Carter's adventures on Mars inspiring everything from George Lucas's Star Wars to James Cameron's Avatar, Flash Gordon, the works of Ray Bradbury, and almost everything in between. Disney's live-action adaptation was an infamous box office bomb, barely recouping the mammoth $263 million budget in theaters, thanks in part to a generic title and muddled marketing campaign that ironically made it look derivative of the very movies it inspired in the first place. It remains an underrated slice of expansive intergalactic world building, but John Carter could be set to find himself a whole new generation of fans if the project takes off as everyone hopes. To celebrate the announcement, FNCPR Fraser Nash teased what Warlord of Mars will have in store for gamers, a World War II adventure game that suddenly pivots into a sci-fi territory. Sounds like exciting stuff, especially if John Carter, Warlord of Mars, dives headfirst into the weird, wonderful, and often downright bizarre mythology of Rice Burroughs' Barsoom series. The collection spanned 11 installments between 1912 and 1964, so there's no shortage of inspiration for FCPR to draw inspiration from when it comes to building the game. but the early test footage makes it look as though these things are surprisingly far along already. The Kickstarter campaign launched, and we'll be updating after finishing the game levels on how John Carter, Warlord of Mars, fares as it begins the arduous journey to hopefully becoming the kick-ass next-generation favorite it has the undoubted potential to be. And that's all for today. What do you think? Is there any drop of hope for the movie trilogy? What if some other production team undertakes the project? Comment down your thoughts. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe, along with hitting the like button. Until next time.